Hello, and welcome to Kier Here, a podcast where I interview weirdo artists, writers, and makers about what they do. I'm your host, Kier Adrian Gray. You can sign up for my newsletter to receive new episodes and other strange goodies straight to your inbox at kier.substack.com. Our guest for today's episode is Channy-B. Channy-B, like you, is a self-regulating interactive art installation created by a mysterious artist of unfathomable brilliance. Through singing, songwriting, elaborate doodling, and generally acting a fool, they aim to share with you the joy, wonder, and gratitude they feel for the terribly strange gift of being alive. We are going to kick off today's episode with a song.
Walking through the forest to forage for food. Make your path on the mountainside, between the trees by the animals hide, and find a place to stop and think, where the water in the creek is safe to drink, at the birth canal of a waterfall, flying high in an eagle sky, with a crown of leaves and a stick for a scepter. Drink that sweet perspective's nectar, and stand until you get your fill. Then let your limbs run wild down them hills. Well, dear, trust in slack hail tame, but you knew it was them when the bell done rang. What's it like to take a life, to provide for your kids and wife? Well, I'm a lanky, tree-striped dude, walking through the forest nude. And people ask me why I ain't got no shoes, and I just laugh and all night cruise. I fed tobacco to the flame, the animals all called my name. They asked me to resist being tamed, and to help them do the same. Well, Father Sky and Mother Earth, remind me kindly of my worth, in the cedar shine inside my heart, where we have never been apart. With threads inside me entwined finely, by design there to remind me, my body does not confine me. Things that I forgot at birth, like Father Sky and Mother Earth, remind me kindly of my worth. Things that I forgot at birth, like Father Sky and Mother Earth. Threads inside me entwined finely, by design there to remind me, my body does not confine me. Things that I forgot at birth.
That was Lanky Tree Stump Dude by Channy-B. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, so good to be here. It's actually Lanky Tree Strut Dude.
Strut Dude.
Yeah,
Excellent.
Strut
I
Dude.
was
Yeah,
so worried I was going to get that wrong, and then I did, but you're here to correct
fine.
me.
I feel like you were at the show um like a couple weeks back or whatever now. And there was someone when the song was requested, they requested Lanky Tree Stump Dude. Yeah.
So I remembered the wrong version that you corrected back then too. That sounds
Yeah,
like a
that's
thing
how
I
it
would do.
goes sometimes. Yeah, I mean, the funny thing is that stumps are like kind of inherently not lanky, right? They're short and stout.
True. Oh my gosh. So yes, I did see your performance at Café de Soleil a couple of weeks ago, and there was a delightful story involving your uncle that went along with that song.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Would you mind
Shall we
sharing
have
it?
it?
Yes.
Not at all. Yeah. Let's see here. So I was up in Bella Coola, and that's like about halfway up the coast of BC, and it's a gorgeous little place there. Well, and yeah, you can go just like walking in the mountains like every day. And yeah, so my uncle, I noticed that he had a crossbow, and I was like, ooh, are you like doing some hunting with that? And he was like, no, not yet, just target practice. And yeah, and then he basically was like, like the deer here, they're not indigenous. White folks just brought them in, and they're eating everything. They got no natural predators. And as I said before too, my uncle and we are both white, but like just the animosity he had about the whole thing was cute. So he was like, but so I like basically could just rig a bell up to my kale, and I wouldn't even have to leave my porch. And my neighbors would thank me. I'd be doing us all a favor. So I was like, alrighty then. And then the next day, he was like going on about the magic of anagrams, which is seemingly unrelated. But anyways, we get out all these Scrabble tiles and we spell out our full names. I should have done the research here too, because as you'll remember at the show, I don't remember my uncle's middle name, but it's Kelly something Nestegard. And when you rearrange the letters in his name, you can spell Lanky Tree Strut Dude, which is great because he's just like walking in the forest every day. He's like 6'4". He's a beanpole of a man, very intelligent beanpole of a man. And yeah, so but you do have a couple letters left over. So I had to go back and see what else I could come up with. And it turns out that a perfect anagram for his name is Deer Trust Sly Kale Tang, which like is ridiculous. I was like, what? Yeah, so that if you listen close, you can hear that come up in the song. I'm not sure how clear the vocals are because I know what I'm saying. But
I think when you know to look for Sly Kale Tang, you will find it for sure.
yeah, it's not a phrase often uttered, but
It's lovely just as
trying to
stuff is
trying
coming
to
up in
start
the
a
garden.
yeah, I'm trying to start a partnership with Jugo Juice, see if they want to start selling this Sly Kale Tang smoothie.
Yes, I could certainly see you as Jugo Juice's next spokesperson for sure. Excellent career
Yeah,
choice.
yeah, it could be my road to fame. I suspect that they probably don't want a partnership with just random guys who write weird songs, but you never know.
You never know. You never know. I mean, I really do feel like in another era, you would have been a wandering minstrel. Your songs, they combine this social and political commentary with these supernatural scenarios, but they still feel like they happen here on Earth. Do you
Hmm.
do you relate to the minstrels of times past?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I would argue that actually I I am a wandering minstrel, and that it's just not like really yeah, it's not like a so much a slot that needs to be filled in modern times. But yeah, very much like among the wandering minstrels and the court jesters of yore, as they say, I think.
Of yore. I think they say that, whoever they is.
Yeah. Do the kids still say that of yore?
I can't understand any children anymore. I couldn't tell you.
Oh, we're
Yeah.
old.
We're getting up there. The song that you opened with at your
Mhm.
performance, it was with a friend of yours, and that
Mm.
song, it felt ancient. It just made me think of like streams and glades and forests, and it was enchanting. Can you
Mm.
tell me a bit about your friend who you were harmonizing with in that
Oh,
song?
I would, yeah, I'd love to. I was so grateful to have them with me. Their name is Katie. They also go sometimes by Tweety Twat because they have a bird school for humans, which is like truly wild in the best sense of the word. I have not attended yet, so I'm not exactly qualified to speak to it, but yeah, Katie and I we were in the same program in high school for 5 years. And we weren't really close in those times. I mean, I kind of had my head up my ass for most of it anyway. So, but like we recently, I'm sure this will come up later, but we reconnected kind of through the wizard community. And then yeah, it's just been a real pleasure to get to know them again. They're also in a collective called Her Tribal Roots, and I saw them perform yesterday. Very cool, sort of multimedia, collaborative mix of like choreographed and improvised song and dance and poetry, some bird whistling, of course. So yeah, I just kind of reached out to them coming up to the show and was like, I would love for you to come and sing with me. And they offered like just exactly what I was looking for, which was like a sort of grounding presence and like a reminder to be playful and not take myself too seriously. And I'm just really glad that it had that sort of transportative effect for you, because I think, you know, part of opening the show that way is like selfish for me because it's like transportative. It gets me to the place that I want to kind of start from. And it's so nice that it can just be a journey for everyone to share. And it's like a little bit of like a let's wander down the path a ways and find a little clearing in the forest, you know, that we can all hang out together. And yeah.
Absolutely. It really felt like it opened up the space for the rest of your set. And one of the reasons that I really think people should see your live performance is your physicality on stage, and in particular, your facial expressions, because your head will wobble on top of your neck and your eyes will widen and close and your eyes will roll back in your head and you're smiling and you're growling, and it is captivating. It is hard to look away when you're on stage. And I just have to ask, like, are those just the expressions that arise as you make music, or is that something that you've layered purposefully into your performance?
Oh, I absolutely can't help it at all. I like yeah, I mean, Katie and I both went to the same clown school called Fantastic Space, studied with a man named David McMurray Smith, who's just a fucking gem of a human being, if you could call him that. And one of the best like teachers I've ever had in my life. And I think a lot of the process of my musicality is kind of informed by that, because there's a lot of like body work and there's a lot of like taking cues from the body. And I was actually just having a conversation yesterday with a percussionist who happened to be in the show that Katie was doing with her tribal roots. And I'd not seen him in a while, but we got to talking about how, you know, if you're writing and you're rehearsing and all of these things, like the brain has such a prominent role to play, but when it's time to like perform, you kind of have to be like, okay, brain, love you, thank you for all your help up until this point, kindly fuck off, you are not needed. So I really do, I think part of that, like having the meditative opener kind of helps me settle into that space where I can just kind of trust that my body knows what to do. And I don't think I could squeeze those sounds out of me, you know, if I wasn't doing all the sort of shimmying and shaking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there was one song that you did entirely in falsetto from start to finish that looked like it might have been a workout, but you totally pulled it off.
I'm glad to hear that that was the way it was perceived. I'm getting increasingly like just annoyed with that decision. And I think I mentioned that actually, that like, because I played one new song and there was kind of like a melodies tend to come to me in falsetto. And I've just kind of realized, you know, like no matter how I feel or identify in any given moment, like I am inside of a man's body. And
Mhm.
and you know, part of like there is a power in the lower register that like I really found like, oh, it's easier for me to actually access my higher register if I travel through the lower register.
Mm.
So as much as like stylistically I still stand by that choice, I'm like, I don't want to have any more songs like that.
It's time to explore the lower the lower qualities, maybe.
Yeah, I got off stage at the open mic, same venue, Cafe du Soleil, like a couple weeks before that show. And the first thing my sister said to me, she knows me way too fucking well, so I can't hide from her. But like, she just looked at me and she was like, "You need an outlet for your anger." And I just was like, "Well, I don't have any retort for that." You're true. Yeah.
Noted.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I have this like super nice, simple, easy question that I wanted to ask you, which
Mhm.
is, do you have a mission here on Earth?
I can sense a little bit of the sarcasm in the lead up there. Oh my goodness. I do. I have a very visceral sense of a mission here on Earth. Um, it's I think by nature partially veiled to me.
Mhm.
And you know, I feel like it kind of just gets like dispensed. I can see as much of it as I need to. um but I guess like to like present some sort of simple framework, um I definitely came into this world like singing and dancing and wrapping myself in scarves and pretending I was an ostrich and shit like that. And then I went to school and I was like promptly informed that my approach to existence was just fucking way off.
Oh no.
And like my tender little brain just like really was taken imprints in a way that like, you know, it doesn't really anymore. And so that's I guess a little bit of what I was talking about when I said, you know, I had my head up my ass for most of high school. I was just trying really hard to toe the line and failing perpetually. And then kind of towards the end of that, getting into like theater. We had a pretty great theater program. Katie and I were actually in some plays together, and that was kind of, I think, my introduction to safe space. Like, we didn't use those words, but it was my first kind of experience of being like, oh, okay, like I'm really like free to explore and express myself here, and that's embraced and encouraged. And that was very new for me. And then around that time, I also was like starting to make friends with girls, and I took mushrooms for the first time. I don't know if I can say that on the radio. I'm kidding. People fucking sell them in storefronts now, but like, yeah, I kind of had this very potent sort of, I'll reuse the word visceral, sort of reconnecting moment with my like inner child, and just thinking about like my 5-year-old self. And well, it would have been 4, but like right before going to school. And just like, yeah, I, for a brief window there, really felt like it was easy to maintain the priority of like connecting with my like authentic self, and expressing that, and really just a lot of faith that, you know, whatever needed to be shedded, whatever connections needed to be shedded, whatever needed to be attracted, like that was just going to happen naturally. And you know, it did. Like my whole life transformed in a really beautiful way. And then of course there's like always the trap of being like, oh no, I actually like my life. What did I do to get here? How did I make these people like me? And how do I repeat that? You know, so it's not you never really get to set up camp. But I do feel like, you know, if I do a performance and somebody tells me that really inspired me to be free and express myself in whatever way that like I long to, like that's when I feel like I'm living my mission, you know. I don't, the last thing I want to hear is like, oh wow, you're so good at that, I could never do that, you know. And I'm like, okay, well I better quit then. Like that's it's exactly the opposite of what I'm trying to, and I know that feeling, you know. That's why I throw those
Yeah,
the mistakes in there as intentionally, you know, to keep it approachable.
totally. It makes us, yeah, all feel like we could be up there too. No, it's so interesting to hear you talk about that though, because another question I had for you is around this thread that runs through your music, through your clowning, your costuming, your illustrations, and it is this playfulness. And it does
Mhm,
really feel like most of us lose it somewhere along the way. It's very hard to hold on to it as we grow into adults. And so
mhm,
my question, which you have already gotten to, was around like, was it always with you, or was it something that you had to come back to at a certain point? And I think
yeah.
hearing that like you were separated from it in the school system and you found your way back,
Mhm,
that's really powerful for those of us who are trying to figure out how to loosen up a little bit and enjoy ourselves more.
yeah, for sure. Well, I never would hope to create the illusion that like, you know, that that's not like work that I have to do every day too. Like it's wild when you are like a performer and you are kind of known within a small circle of people to like have that playful energy, and then it almost um you know, whether or not you're making money really, I mean everything kind of gets commodified, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, you know, like you're very serious about recreating this sort of magical playful energy, right? There's just like that trap where it can always, yeah. So
Mhm.
luckily enough, I mean, the performance that that you were at, like I was, I think kind of with the help of Katie, able to like set the stage to like becoming from an authentic place of play. But
Mhm.
um I think what you're saying about the having lost it and come back to it is is really poignant and powerful, because there was a time in my life where I really kind of judged myself harshly for having just fallen under this spell. And just, I could think of all the people that I kind of went to school with who you could almost think of it as like having had the courage to just be ostracized for continuing to pursue their authentic selves, and
Oof.
like, and the way like shit rolls downhill too. So I wasn't always the kindest to those people. I was at the bottom of the pecking order in my friend circle, but so sometimes if someone was below me, I've had some apologies to make over the years, but I realize now that, like, having had that journey of being disconnected from my authentic self, and then finding my way back, has really allowed me for a broader, I guess I could say, like, bandwidth as far as like empathizing with people goes. And I do think that, like,
Mhm.
the way that I kind of view the world spiritually, which is never easily expressed in words, but has a lot to do with that idea of losing our connection to a greater whole and finding our way back. There's something about the nuanced perspective that comes with that, and the sort of increase in gratitude that can come with, like, knowing what it's like to be without something.
Yeah, it strikes me that if you had never lost it, it would have been easier to take it for granted
Mm-hmm.
and to not realize like how incredible that playfulness is and what a gift it is. And the way you describe being able to relate other people that are trying to find their way back there, that's, yeah, there's something powerful about that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I heard a rumor that you have been spotted roving about town with a band of wizards. And I was wondering if my source was hallucinating or if this was indeed the case.
Well, there's an argument to be made that we're all hallucinating, but yeah, there's definitely some truth to that. Um, there's a transmutation that takes place, so it's not Channy-B,
Oh,
but Ramshackle, rather, who, yeah, has been known to rove amongst the merry band of wizards, um, which was sort of a fever dream kind of brought into the public sphere by one Nate Nate Nainers, who your dedicated listeners would be familiar with. Um,
yes. Yes.
I'm actually
And
sitting next to the hat here.
I wanted to ask you about that hat. So is that Ramshackle's hat?
That is Ramshackle's hat. I'm sure he wouldn't mind if we, here. Oh, yeah. So
Wow.
we can't really fit both of us in the frame, but that's got the bat wings and some
Would you
third
be
eye
able
connection going on.
oh yes, so we've got two bat wings coming off of this like cone-shaped hat. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's all this colorful sort of pastel braiding that wraps around the cone. And then this multicolored fuzzy fur kind of around the rim of the hat. It is
Yeah.
spectacular.
Yeah, it works. I'm pretty proud of it. I kind of just had this idea, and I have no real technical know-how. So I'm like very surprised that this just like kind of actually functions. It's just all cardboard and coat
Really?
hangers underneath. Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Like, hot glue and patience will get you everywhere, really.
As long as it does
Yeah.
not start pouring, you're good.
Oh yeah, no, this does not go in the rain. I actually have to figure out some sort of some finish for the inside, because when I sweat in it, it gets kind of gnarly. I think
Oh.
gotta do something about it before it starts growing mold.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Ain't that the truth with all the most spectacular costumes? They're just terribly uncomfortable.
certainly. Yeah.
So I saw this series of photos that you sent me,
Mhm.
and they looked like, I'm going to take a guess here, that they were from a festival. And you were in this sort of flowing outfit with about 100 neon necklaces on. And you
Yeah.
had sort of like this pilot's hat, except it was floral and it had these
Mhm.
antennae coming off of it with these orange puff balls.
Yeah.
Is your
Yeah.
memory coming back?
Oh no, for sure. I do. I was just thinking I have it. That one I could probably put on now if we want a visual aid.
Oh, that
Do
sounds
you want that?
wonderful.
Okay, I'm gonna disappear for a second. I'll come back transformed.
Oh, yes.
And these kind of, there we go.
Oh my gosh, yes. This is the hat.
This is the hat. Yeah, so that was at Art Wells, which RIP, like my favorite festival of all time. Apparently the organizers have moved to the Okanagan, so
Oh
they're doing a different thing. But Wells is just this beautiful little town, like originally was like a mining town, and just like beautiful, colorful, giant Victorian homes nestled in the middle of the mountains, and just super community vibe. And I got invited out there to be part of a clown troupe. So I had this really ambitious clown turn that like didn't really land. But then we also did roving work, and that's kind of what you saw the photos of. My
Yes.
friend Julia Wu who's like super cool clowny person, is also like an acupuncturist, and so she suggested that we do fake healings for people.
Yes. Okay. Because I saw this picture. There's someone who's laid out on a table. You are leaning over them. Someone else is leaning over them. Tell me what's going on there.
Yeah, we were just like basically uh just like shouting out to people, being like, fake healings, 100% bona fide fake healing. And everyone was so fucking into it. They were like, fake. Wow. There's
I
something
want
about
that.
this like full disclaimer of just like, this is totally fake. And then the joke was we kept having to be like, oh shit, we better be careful or we might actually heal someone. But it was great. We just had people lie down on the table, and there was a clown horn that we would honk at like just the wrong moment. I had this actually, all my little toys are right next to me. You can hear this is like a Fisher Price toy that was really nice
Yes.
to like put over people. Then we would like, yeah, tickle them with streamers and have them drink pickle juice out of an impossibly long straw. It was great.
I thought I saw a jar of pickles in there, but I love
Mm-hmm.
pickles so much that I thought maybe I was just imagining it, but there really was a jar of pickles.
There were pickles, yeah, pickles and
Excellent.
pickles. Yeah, key components of a fake healing.
So good. It also looked so much like healings that I've experienced that did not purport to be fake. So,
Yeah, it's a good pretense because it really just takes the pressure off. You know?
right. You're
Yeah,
promising nothing.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And then we have
Well,
to I
yeah.
think you'd have to have people sign a disclaimer to say like we're not responsible for any actual healing that might take place.
It's totally unintentional.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Oh
yeah,
my
we're doing
gosh.
our best to just be bogus here, but
What I love about that as well is I feel like the placebo effect doesn't get enough attention, where like if someone thinks that something will make them feel better, it often does, even if there's no like scientific basis for that. So there's something there.
although, I mean, like, as you did bring up, I mean, like, there is a scientific basis for the placebo effect itself, right?
Right.
Um,
Yes.
and that's like anything, that the effectiveness of any medicine or modality has to be measured against the placebo effect because it does have a significant influence. So yeah,
Yeah.
even shysters can help you out in a pinch.
So you may have accidentally healed people. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
Against
laughter is
your
the best medicine.
Absolutely. Um, I would like to talk about the book that just came out last month. The
Heck
title
yeah.
is It's Gonna Be Sick as Hell. It's written by Nate Nate Nainers, released by Wharfinger's Press, and illustrated by Channy-B.
Me. Channy B.
Yeah, the illustrations that you drew are so lush and they're so intricate. And what I really enjoy about them is each time I go back, I can spot new little details that had evaded me the first time.
Mm.
They're like little Easter eggs in there.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I like to do. So I'm glad. Glad.
Yeah, the other thing that I noticed is you there's like a flow of time contained in these illustrations, like because
Mm.
each illustration goes with an entire story, and it's remarkable the way that so much of the story can be captured in a two-dimensional unmoving illustration.
Mm.
And I was curious about how this collaboration came about and what was your process creating these drawings.
Well, so it was like early COVID days, and um, it's probably come across thus far in the interview that I'm like a very social creature. So I was kind of freaking out, trying to figure out how to like remain engaged within my community. And one of the things that I had done was I put a little call out to be like the first 5 people to respond to this. I will I will draw you riding a magical animal of your choosing. Or I think actually just alongside, riding was maybe not in there, but yeah, so I got about 2 deep into the promised 5. And then I was having a chat with Nate. Another thing that I was doing was just calling literally everyone that I knew, like people I hadn't talked to in years, just being like, so the fucking world, huh? And like, so Nate and I were talking, and we were not like especially close at that point. We were kind of just acquaintances that had like seen each other around, being like, you do weird things. That's cool. I love weird things. I also do them. And yeah, Nate just kind of mentioned, hey, I've started, like, I'd always known Nate as a storyteller. And they were like, yeah, I just started writing my stories down. And I'm thinking it could be a book. And I'm thinking it could be illustrated. And I'm thinking, I'm looking at your drawings and I like what I see. Do you catch my drift? And I was like, yeah. And I was pretty nervous about it in a way because I have never done anything like that. Um, but I thought, what the hell? I am so desperate for something to occupy me. And so we just started talking, and I had no idea at the beginning really that I'm not sure Nate did either, but that the stories were kind of coming together around this central theme of like exploring healthy masculinity. And yeah, Nate and I had a lot of talks that I think were therapeutic for the both of us, as just being like male-bodied queer people in a very sort of nuanced journey. And yeah, kind of the subject matter that Nate wanted to explore was very, we'll say, kind of kismet for me, because I really was at the point in my journey where I had really fought to reclaim my relationship to the feminine. And then I kind of was thrown off balance in a whole new way, and really trying to figure out how I could embody masculinity in a way that I felt was not problematic or threatening to people around me. And so yeah, those conversations were really beautiful to have. I guess as far as the like actual like doing the drawings part of it, it was very touch and go. The process of it, because I'd never really been accountable to someone else's vision. So that was what was really new for me. Like normally I just put pen to paper and see what happens. And I kind of loathe laboring an image out of my head, because as soon as I can already see it, I'm like totally bored. I'm like, who cares? But this was the first time that I had like really bothered to like draft it in pencil first, and then, you know, like really be considerate of like the composition and trying to get things balanced. And then, as you mentioned, like trying to like make sure that the story is done justice. It didn't seem right to me to just pick a snapshot and put it in there. It's kind of like, okay, how can we reference, like as you said, the journey of the thing? So I don't know. It definitely, there was a lot of like putting the pen or pencil down and just like ruminating on it and thinking about it. And like that was like the hardest work for me, was like the marks that I didn't make, because normally I get all carried away, and then, you know, you reach a point of balance and then you make one mark that implies another 100, and you're like, oh fuck, what have I done? um and then, you know, you got to put 100 marks in there, and maybe it's a little busy and you're like, well, that took away from it. But so I don't know. Yeah, it was quite the learning experience. People were very gracious with me. It was a lengthy process, to say the least.
Yeah, books take a really long time. I don't know if people realize how many steps there are. And yeah, it's a whole big thing.
For sure.
How did, okay, first I would love to describe the launch event for this book.
Okay, yeah.
It was in mid-May at the Bookcase in Maple Ridge, which is this bookstore. It was a beautiful day, weekend afternoon, and I pull up a little bit late as usual, and there's this little crowd kind of making this half circle in front of the store, and Nate is standing there reading a story aloud. And it's a beautiful day, and it was just so joyful. Everyone there was so happy to be there. No one was there by accident. Or if they were there by accident, I couldn't tell, because there was so much enthusiasm and warmth. And yeah, how did it feel to get to the end of that process and just see people receive your work?
It was wild. Yeah, I think so many times during that process, I really lost sight of the fact that there would be a finished product. Um, so it was exciting to like see like, oh, this is like, I think the line of the day at the launch was, it looks like a real book.
I think that was my friend Tina. Yeah.
Yeah, well, God bless Tina. That's a great line. I'm fighting for that to be the new quote on the cover of the second edition.
It looks like a real book.
Yeah. um yeah, it was really cool. Every time I get to see Nate do like a live reading or a storytelling moment, I'm just thrilled. Like, I think Nate did an excellent job of putting them to page, but I do think like anyone who gets the chance to see Nate live should jump at it, because like they have been long time sort of oral tradition storyteller before they started writing stuff down, or at least anything that led to a published book. But yeah, it's such a wild ride. um and even like Nate read a story at the show at Cafe du Soleil, which and we were talking about what story he might read, and I was like, I trust your judgment. Just know that my mom is in the audience because my mom's cool, and like we talk about like whatever, but there's at least one story in there that I'm like really gonna encourage my mom not to read. I think it's even in the book, which like I believe a suggestion of mine to have a page that said, seriously, mom, dad,
That's in
stop
there.
reading.
Yes, that made it to the final
Yeah,
edition.
yeah. um but yeah, it's so cool to go on that ride with Nate, where there are all these little moments where like things are like quite profane or quite disconcerting or unsettling. And I think the beauty of Nate's work is that those moments are never just in there for shock value. They're never just in there to be like, ooh, I'm edgy, or I mean, like, obviously, I hope it's obvious to everyone that Nate's not trying to be like a quote unquote serious writer, even though they like take their work seriously, but like every moment of like darkness and unsettlingness or profanity, like it always kind of lends itself to um a real like wholesome um and like heartfelt moment or message or what have you. um yeah,
Yeah, there's a real earnestness there.
totally.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a it's interesting that you mentioned that, because there is the edgelord thing where you have swear words, or you have controversial things happen. But although there are swear words in that book, I think it never, like you said, that there's a reason for it. And I feel that way about the songs that I have heard from you as well, that
Mhm.
emotions are never being exploited. You're never just sort of opening yourself up for shock value and hoping that you can
Mhm.
just coast on that. There's something really compelling and touching, because there's like a wholeness to your lyrics and kind of to the journey of the songs from start to finish.
Mm. Well, thank you so much for saying that. That's what I hope to accomplish. Nice to hear it comes across. I did get like the best compliment uh about a month back from someone that was just like, like some people are out there like trying to be weird, and like you are one of the most authentically strange people I have ever seen. And I was like, oh, thank you. I forgive you for making that mistake. I am in fact the standard of normality from which all things depart. But I understand that it seems strange to you, and I'm glad that brings you joy.
How wonderful if we could all aspire to invite as much mischief and curiosity into our lives as you do. I think we would all be better for it for sure. Well, Channy-B, I was wondering, do you have anything coming up that you'd like to tell people about?
Oh boy, I've been dreading the plug segment. I yeah, I'm scheming and dreaming right now. I'm on a familiar precipice that I don't think I've ever properly leapt off of, but wherein like I'm looking to try to like get some of my stuff in some packages and make it accessible for people. So I don't really know necessarily. I mean, people could be, if anyone has seen this and is curious, if we could leave a link to my Instagram. I do tend to advertise things there.
Yes, yeah, we'll put that in the show
Yeah,
notes.
cool. Sounds good.
And it
Yeah, I'm
sounds
trying to
like
think. Go
you
ahead.
might have an Illustrator page that will launch on Wharfinger's Press at some point.
Yeah, absolutely. It's cool to know that they were like, yeah, you know, you're under our wing now. So anything that you want to do in the future, I do have some nursery rhymes that I'm thinking about illustrating, and so it'd be cool to get those published.
That sounds wonderful. And Wharfinger's Press already has this delightful swear word coloring book for kids. So I think that a book of nursery rhymes from Channy-B could fit very well with that.
Yeah, hell yeah. I have always actually wanted to make a coloring book simply for the reason that like I make these elaborate black and white illustrations and I would love for them to be colored, but I don't have the patience. And so I always thought it would be fun to make a coloring book that's just called You Do It.
That's excellent. That's
Yeah.
beautiful. I cannot wait, and I could not say no to you. So I will definitely have to color if I get my hands on that.
Well, I will be very thankful. I look forward to being able to trick people into doing half my labor.
So good. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me today, Channy-B. This has been
My
Kier
pleasure.
here, a podcast where I interview weirdo artists, writers, and makers about what they do. I'm your host, Kier Adrian Gray. You can sign up for my newsletter to receive new episodes and other strange goodies straight to your inbox at kier.substack.com. Until next time, mwah!